What's up, y'all? This is Master of Thought from the Astro Lamada on The Voice Party, and this episode has been brought to you by All Roads Overhead Garage Doors. Their number is 510-375-8756. So if you seriously need to step up your garage door game, they got it for you right here in the Bay Area.
Turning down too.
Yeah, I'm
sorry. That was. I'm not gonna do that again. I apologize.
Fine.
We're all wearing headphones and shit, dude.
It hurt me too, but you know what?
It was worth. It was for the cast. It's for the cast.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Halloween, guys.
Are we recording?
We're recording.
Yeah, we've been recording.
Oh wow.
You ain't got your headphones on. You're not talking into your mic.
We got Teresa's voice in the background talking about her her history. Did any of that catch?
No.
Oh, okay.
I saw when he turned it on. Hope not, because I sure some. I'm just kidding.
Things can be edited out. It's
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween episode, everybody. Welcome to the
welcome.
Voice Party. It's a Halloween special.
Oh yes.
So what we got, it's just me, JD. We got the director, Joaquin Xavier, and off the bench.
Oh yeah, we got Phil here.
We got Phil in the mix.
About time,
man.
Mm-hmm.
How's it feel? You think you're gonna be able to focus and not pay attention to the TV more than us?
Well, yeah, how hard could it be?
I don't know. I dressed up for a reason. I need your attention.
You dressed up for radio.
I mean, right now we're competing with,
a horror theme show. What is it?
We're watching Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Are You Afraid of the Dark? I've never heard of the show. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. It's basically Goosebumps without everything. No.
hey, don't confuse the two. Goosebumps was in a fairly okay adapted show based on a great series of kids horror novels, and Are You Afraid of the Dark is a bunch of original script.
Really?
Original script to TV anthology for kids.
Which one came out first?
Good question. I think the Goosebumps books came out first, but Are You Afraid of the Dark as a TV show came out as a TV show before Goosebumps came out as a TV show.
Okay.
Right. Right. Campfire ghost stories.
So a lot of horror being shown this month. You guys
From October into November.
October and September, August.
Hey, but you know what? They used to tell ghost stories around Christmas time.
Yeah.
In years and years ago. I think we mentioned this in the
we
previous
did,
episode.
the first one, yeah.
So it's fine. Depending on
I like it. It is. We have some stories to share with everyone today, and each and every one of you has stories, whether they're yours or somebody else's. It's some of your favorite scary ghost haunted house stories.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have some
interesting.
Yeah. So with it being Halloween, I'm gonna throw a cheap plug out there for the new Frosted Mini Fears Halloween special. Live Evil. Check it out over on the Frosted Mini Fears YouTube channel, because we made that as well.
Yes.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be released on today.
Yeah, it's Halloween, so it's out.
Okay. Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I've been grateful with I was able to watch it before it came out, and I just have to say that was some good editing, and that I want to visit that little haunted town. I actually visited a ghost town this year.
Okay.
Or did you?
I visited Virginia City, and I visited. It was earlier in the year. I didn't do a ghost tour because I went there late at night, and I didn't do a ghost tour, but I got a tour by a local, and they showed me around. We actually went into a mine. Yeah, I got into a mine. I mean, it's not that scary. I think that's scarier than whether it's. I don't know. I think there was some kind of show filmed next door or somewhere in that same street. Ghost Adventures filmed there. That's when they threw a brick. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to date a girl who was super into Ghost Adventures.
Yeah, right. And I mean, it was debunked as a fake because what was that? I'm just kidding. So it was a sneeze.
But yeah. So Live Evil's out. We shot that in I don't want to give spoilers because people haven't seen it because it just came out. But we shot that at this ghost town called Drawbridge. It's the last ghost town in the Bay Area. It's down by San Jose, and this ghost town, it's on an island, and it's only accessible by like these Amtrak tracks that are still in use. So me and Joaquin had to time it so we weren't on the tracks at the same time the train was coming. Again? It's called Drawbridge.
Drawbridge.
Yeah. But we had to, when we were trekking out there to film, we had to hike. It was like, I think 2 miles there and then 2 miles back to get to this ghost town. And like I said, the only way there is these train tracks. So we had to make sure that like the train wasn't to come in when we were on the tracks because there was no way for us to get out of the way.
How did you do that?
The trains don't come that often, so it's one of those things where it's like, all right, we should have 10 minutes to get across this bridge. I don't see any train in either direction. But then when we were coming back, a train was coming, and we're like, well, let's just step off these tracks off to the side here, and oh, wow, that is close, as the train goes rocketing by.
I mean, well, we did see a train pass by on our way to the town. And we were able to sort of estimate how long it may take the train to come again, and thankfully it was maybe a couple of hours really before we saw another one. When we made it over to the ghost town, it was like, oh, it's been about an hour, or two, but, 2.5.
Yeah, but the ghost town was super spooky because like...
It's called ghost town because of the absence of people, not because there's actual ghost reportings there or ghost sightings.
So people haven't lived there for a number of years. I think the last remaining resident moved out in like
1979.
Yeah, 1979. Because like the island is sinking, and so when you go there, like all the buildings are like a foot sunk into the ground.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. That is that's scarier than anything ghost related that you probably hear from there. I mean, but
yeah.
Did you experience weird stuff in that specific location, or was there other places where you did experience some scary stuff? Because that's what we're talking about today.
I mean, we definitely have, there's definitely some stories of risk, and risk can be interpreted.
Risk is scary.
Now, I can tell you, I was going to talk a little bit about some of my dad's experiences, but,
do tell.
We do have a ton of behind the scenes Halloween episode things to discuss. Aside from the fact that, in regard to the most recent episode, avoiding getting hit by the train.
That's scary.
I threw a video up on my Facebook of the train going by, and it's super fucking close.
How close would you say feet wise?
This is like 15 feet. That's as far off of the tracks as we could get.
And sometimes trains have little things poking out of it, and that's scary.
Yeah. And the thing about it was like an Amtrak, right?
Oh yeah.
So but the thing about it was we had come the Saturday, the night, which was the evening before, and we did some research. It said it was 2 miles from the point where we started all the way over to the other side, and it was getting dark. So we opted to do some filming over in Point Richmond instead, and then come back the next day. And we were very grateful that we didn't go stumbling around in the dark, because we probably would have died. There is a creek. We're not really sure how deep. And the thing about the area, the reason why it's been abandoned is because it was flooded. See, in the early 1900s, people realized that it was cool to go out in the area and hunt. They were hunting birds and the like. And then people thought, hey, it'd be nice if we could stay here for summer vacations. And then it became, you know what? We're going to build homes here and just kind of live here. This is pretty cool. And by the 1930s, it was a full community. But also by the late 1930s into the 40s, when factories started springing them all over the place, and hey, war effort, and all that kind of stuff, a lot of the toxic runoff from the factories were flooding into the area. People's dishes were turning black from the various chemicals being pumped through the water. And the sea level, was already pretty low as far as sea level is concerned, but the water level was rising. The homes were slowly sinking into the abyss. So when you go through that area, there's all these sinkholes, and if you're not careful, you could fall in. There's
That's scary.
Yeah, there's a creek that we didn't realize, because there's such tall grass there, and there's this creek we didn't realize that if you didn't find the plank, there's a wooden plank that you have to find to cross. This is the side where we were. There was another side, and there's more community out there, but in the area we were exploring, you have to find the plank and then walk across that rickety plank that, surprisingly held, my weight. It was so delicate. I felt like,
Surprisingly held my weight.
And we're carrying equipment. So it's like one of us could easily fall to our not necessarily instantaneous death, but drowning. That's a possibility.
And just being out there with nobody.
Oh, yeah.
That's the danger, too.
It's just the two of us, And thank goodness there was the two of us.
And not anybody else. Imagine some weirdo out there. That's scary, too. That's a risky run. And
there's some nutcase with a knife.
You're not strapped up anyway when you do these things.
Man, I don't need no strap.
Right.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean like something, a fucking taser, or
right?
or pepper spray,
right? Or a crossbow,
brass knuckles.
That's helpful.
Those things work miracles.
No. Sword.
No, I mean brass knuckles will do a lot.
That's true. That's true.
I'm just saying, just in case you guys are out there. These weird.
No, we've in the 6 years we've been producing this show, we've been some places, and it's been very dangerous.
Yeah.
We've almost died a couple times, but we're fine.
Filmmaking is dangerous.
It is.
And
you see, and you experience. I'm sure you have experienced some creepy stuff, like related to ghosts.
There's got to be, that abandoned naval base you and Chad and Angela went to, with all the radiation.
So we had
signs.
We had done this episode called West Endershire, and we filmed it in this abandoned naval base in San Francisco, and it's been abandoned for years. And so we talked our way past the guard up front there, and we snuck into this base, and we're filming on location. And there's all these radiation signs everywhere: danger, radioactive materials present, danger, don't be here, you'll get radiation. I'm sure we're fine, and it's so weird because it's like there's still stuff there. There's still furniture there. So people just up and left suddenly and left all their shit behind. We are looking through the mess hall, and there's a behind the scenes video for it. And you can see this in the behind the scenes. At one point, I just hear Chad screaming, "No! No!" And I'm like, what happened? And he opened the fridge, and there was food from the 80s still in the fridge that had turned into its own colony at this point. Jesus. And that was pretty nasty.
Created life.
And then at one point we're making our way up the top of this warehouse building thing. We're going up these stairs, and there's this random door, and I'm like, where does this lead? And I open the door, there's fucking nothing there. It's up in the roofs where the catwalks are, but the catwalks have been removed, so it just leads to a sudden fall.
Oh shit.
And then we got up onto the roof, and we had to crawl out through this window where the glass pane had been pushed out. And so my friend Angela goes out, I go out, and then as Chad is coming through the window, he steps on the glass pane that's on the roof, and it cracks under his weight, and he just has a panic attack and thinks he's gonna fall through the roof. So he's just freaking out and screaming. We're like, "Are you okay? You're okay?" He's like, "Don't fucking touch me! Don't fucking touch me! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!" He thought he fell through the roof. His life flashed before his eyes. So we've been in a lot of situations like that where
that's scarier than anything.
We could. The most dangerous time, we were filming this episode called The Fells. And there's a part in the story where these kids are wandering through the woods, and they find this cave, and they're exploring this cave, right? So we need fucking caves. At one point, we film in this abandoned dynamite mine, I think it was, out in Antioch. It was like the black dynamite mine out in Antioch. And so we had to hike like an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back. And it's triple degree heat, and there's no trees, there's no shade, and we're carrying equipment and props, and we didn't think to bring water. So we're almost dying by the time we get to this cave. And then we get all our shots, and we gotta hike back. And so we finally made it to a water fountain, and we're like fighting each other for the fucking water fountain. So we almost, like, the heat was real that day because, like I said, it was triple degree heat. But the worst part filming that was originally we were going to film some caves out in, like, the Alvarado Park.
Yeah.
Because there was, like, I guess there's some group of people or some guy or whatever that was, like, hiding out in some caves for, I think, days or weeks or however long it was. Chad knew the story. So we were going to find these caves and go fucking film there.
Oh, shit.
So it was
Alvarado Park here in Richmond.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I am.
So, well, like Wildcat Canyon, like Alvarado leads into
right,
Wildcat Canyon, but it's in that big park area.
I heard there's also a abandoned asylum. Yeah.
I haven't heard that, but I would like to find that.
Where is it? This abandoned asylum?
Like in the Wildcat area. That's what I remember hearing from graffiti people. Because, graffiti people are, they find these weird spots and they go and.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. That's.
Well, so check this out. We're trying to find these caves, and we see where the caves are. Mm-hmm. And so we hike around to the other side of this park to get to them. And there's not really like a direct path that leads there. So we get like above the caves and we have to find a way to go down. So I like hop the guardrail that says do not cross this point, danger, don't cross this point. And I'm trying to make my way down this cliff, and I slip and fall off the side of this cliff, and it's like 100-foot drop or whatever it is. And so I like grab onto a tree, and I'm holding on to like my camera rig with one hand and this tree with another hand, and I'm screaming for Chad, and he can't fucking get to me in time because he's way on the other side. And so I got a choice to make. I can feel my grip loosening, so I like let go of the tree and then tuck and roll to protect my camera and just roll down this fucking cliff, and probably should have died, but I managed to make it to the bottom okay. But I was pretty banged up. Camera was okay, thankfully.
Jesus.
So priorities.
That's scary.
Yeah. It was
you made it.
I did.
You're here.
In the behind the scenes video we did for that, like there's a part in the video where I show like the cliff that I fell, and I'm like John Madden fucking circling shit and drawing arrows, like, now right here is where I hopped a guardrail, and then I'm drawing fucking arrows and shit to show how far I fell. That's the tree I grabbed onto right there.
So you get inside the caves.
So here's the fucking worst part. So we make it to the bottom, and then we're going up to these caves, and Chad goes first, and he's going up into the caves. I'm down at the bottom behind him, and I just hear, "You gotta be fucking kidding me!" And I'm like, "What? What is it?" He's like, "These aren't even caves. They're like 3 feet deep. These are barely nooks."
Oh my god! I was typing it on my phone because I want to go see, but
yeah. So we ended up going out to Antioch to film like the diamond mine out there, and that worked out fine aside from almost dying of heat exhaustion.
Yeah, especially but nothing ghost related. Because none of this has been ghost related.
Yeah.
It's been Halloween.
It's been Halloween.
That is true.
We've almost died. We've almost died a bunch of times.
It doesn't have the. You're right. It is scary. It's scary to think about it, but like,
now if you want some paranormal stuff,
That's what you want.
That's what I thought. No, that's what I thought.
That's what you want?
I appreciate these stories.
Yeah. No.
That's what I thought. Because
you want to hit him with some paranormal?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You said you have something your dad experienced.
Oh man, so I come from a very.
Let me just interrupt real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is some scary shit. Like, I've been in a situation where, like, falling, like, fear, as fear is concerned, that's fucking true terror, man. When you're about to fall, I've been catwalks and I've had little, yeah. That's fucking scary. My bad.
No, it's all good.
Okay. So I come from a very religious Christian background. And from that, you have all sorts of different personalities, and within those personalities, you might even have different ideas on how spirituality, the Bible, God, etc., work. So my dad comes from a very particular school of thought and belief, in the school of what's called spiritual warfare. This idea that demons really can possess you, and that the devil is actually active to destroy souls that would otherwise follow Christ, right? So my dad will often tell me about these encounters that he's had, and he's just convinced that the people that he's dealt with or these situations were somehow influenced by demonic forces, right? And I'll give you an example. So when I was 10, he attempted to move down south in order to stay closer to where I was. You know, wanted to live near his son, because he was living in Oakland at the time, and I was living in Arkansas. And I was staying with his mother, you know, my grandmother, and his stepfather, who I just call Grandpa. Anyway, I don't really consider him step-granddad. You know, he's granddad. But they just get to give you an idea of their relationship. Mm-hmm. He stayed with us for a little while, and then eventually he moved out because he just wasn't, things weren't really meshing. But he stayed with an aunt that lived in town. We're going to call her Aunt Kay. All right. You know how they say that kids can kind of tell the energy that an adult gives off, that maybe there's something right about the adult or something wrong.
Something wrong. They can sense bad people or something, like, yeah.
Now, when I was little, I remember meeting Aunt Kay for the first time. I walked into her room, not knowing it was her room, and she was in bed, and she went, "Come here, sweetie." And there was something in that sweetie that made me recoil.
The big bad wolf.
You know, I might have been maybe 3 or 4, because we were just visiting.
Yeah.
We hadn't moved down there yet. We hadn't moved to Arkansas yet. And I remember sort of feeling just, I had to get out of there. You know, and I had never felt like that about someone calling me sweetie or beckoning me to come toward them. Normally I'm like, oh, okay. But I was just like, something's wrong here. Hmm. So
how old were you said?
I might have been 2 or 3 at the time. Fast forward to my dad's thing. My dad's staying with Aunt Katie. As soon as he moves in, he starts doing chores, right? He starts helping out around the house, which is, you know, Aunt Kay, she's older. You know, she's an older lady, and he's trying to be a gentlemanly grandnephew. Or I'm the grandnephew, just gentlemanly nephew to her. She starts running around and saying things like, you know, talking to her church and saying things such as, "Oh, my nephew is stealing from me, and he just treats me so poorly. I mean, he refused to help me plant these bushes that I bought, these dead old bushes, these bushes with no leaves or anything on them, but he went on ahead and did it." And, you know, claiming that he was stealing from her and he was paying her rent from what little he was making at Walmart, right? So, you know, but negative stories about Aunt Kay alone aside, I mean, I could go on. You know, the fact that a relative in Los Angeles, and she had gone over to L.A. for the funeral and tried to steal the family Bible. Well, no, he would have wanted me to have it, and all this kind of stuff. You know, we think, we can't prove it, but we think that she might have been poisoning her sister, my Aunt S, because when my Aunt S was staying with her, or rather she was staying with Aunt S, and she was cooking for Aunt S started taking ill. After she moved out and my grandmother started cooking for Aunt S, her health improved. It wasn't until Aunt Kay moved back in, not to mention that my dad told me that he discovered what he think might have been arsenic in the cabinet.
Shit.
So I bring all that up to say that my dad, you know, said that the moment that he stepped into that house, he felt this odd sort of this thing hanging in the air he couldn't quite describe. And he said that one day, before he left Arkansas for good, and just gave up on trying to stay there, as he was packing up and leaving, he looked down on the floor and saw these, what he described as burning red eyes staring up at him. Right?
I don't fuck with red eyes.
Mm-hmm. And he got out of that place as quickly as he could. He was like, nope. So his take on that was that there is some sort of demonic presence hovering over Aunt Kay, and I mean, all that sociopathic behavior puts it in whereas a psychiatrist, right? A psychiatrist would say, well, she's obviously a psychopath, right? Like, things like that.
Which is one way to interpret it.
Right, which is one way to interpret it. But my dad would say, especially based on what he saw, he would turn around and say, oh, no, definitely not demonic possession. There is also a story he told me. There was a church he was going to, and this church felt compelled to pray around City Hall over in Oakland. They were going to march around City Hall like the Israelites marched around Jericho, the walls of Jericho, and they marched and eventually the good Lord broke the walls down and they were able to descend upon the city. So they got the bright idea that maybe they could walk around City Hall and pray for the leadership in City Hall to make certain decisions, the right moral decisions as they deem fit. So this man out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but apparently he might have been living on the outskirts of City Hall, was homeless, walks up after their third lap around the building praying and says, "This is my place. Mine," right? It's creepy, and there again, my father's just like, obviously that was a demoniac who saw what we were doing. And I tend to take the lane of, obviously he was crazy and you right, but it's almost too good of a coincidence that they were praying for the members of City Hall and marching around in that way. Yeah. And this guy says, "This is mine." Like, I can see how someone can interpret that and say, no, that's the devil trying to defend his territory. Right. So that's, I've heard, like, my dad had described a woman who was in this shelter that was run by this minister that he greatly respected. And this woman was, for the most part, meek and mild and gentle. And the lady left at some point and called randomly out of the blue and laid all kinds of obscenities at the minister. F you, such and such and such. My dad described it as, it was almost as if another person, and not the person that they got to know through the ministry, had called the pastor, almost as though some other force had taken a hold of her. So, I mean, those are definitely, and some of those stories that Dad will tell, I'll go, yeah, Dad, I just think you're misinterpreting mental illness. But with some of them, I'm like,
it's hard. Yeah, it's one of those things where because I agree with you, with my mental illness and especially like the homeless guy, but I do also believe in that other, the spiritual side of it. I mean, it's
at least the potential.
The potential for sure, because it's. Well, I have quite a bit of stories, but I like to talk about like family stories. Like one of my uncles has a story, which is funny. You guys mentioned earlier Point Richmond, and this is a story. This is an incident that happened to him in Point Richmond. He was this uncle of mine. He's in his late 60s, and he's a jogger still to this day. Still jogs, like wakes up at 3 a.m., goes jogging, then goes to work at like 5 a.m., like in his late 60s, Yeah, I know, that sounds crazy. And his spot for a long time was Point Richmond. That was his favorite spot to go and jog. And on this particular day, he was jogging there. And while he was jogging, early 3 a.m., still dark, he noticed a young woman with really long blonde hair, and it's almost hippie-ish, like with a hippie wardrobe. He says she looked not from, it was like 90s, but she looked like someone dressed for the 60s, late 60s.
Yeah.
Or, you know, the hippie era or whatever that was. And he says she was running, and when she ran, he could tell her hair was really long, so the bounce of the hair just looked like old school. And she ran past him. She lapped him a couple of times. And he said the thing he noticed and he distinguished, like, that he right away he picked up is her feet weren't really touching the floor when she was running next to him. Yeah. And then every time she lapped him a couple of times, and then I forgot where he mentioned towards where there's like a fence, a gate to get into where the beach is at, to get to the rocks to fish. While she was walking, like, instead of hopping over the fence, she just walked through it like a ghost would. And from there, when he saw that, because he saw that happen, at this point she probably lapped him like 5 times. She just walked through that gate without hopping over, just walked through it like Kitty Pryde from the X-Men. He saw that. He said he stopped. He turned around and he ran super fast back to his car, and his new jogging spot is the marina. And he tells his story like, I was like, where you going? Were you drunk the night before? You know, like, what happened?
Right.
And it's funny because I always heard these, like, there's other stories that I heard, obviously, but like, I have personal stories, but like all these stories I heard as a kid, and it's like, there's got to be an explanation for this. Like, these dudes are, you know, 3 a.m. waking up early. I also noticed in myself, like as an adult, like sleep deprivation is a motherfucker for the brain. So you see shit that like I pulled an all-nighter a couple of days ago, and I noticed like doing that, like I would see shit that like it was just shadows or whatever. It just it your peripherals, so it kind of what's the word? It just amplifies the way your peripherals fuck with you, you know. But I mean, that's where I was. That's what I thought of that. I mean, I don't know, but that the fact that he said she looked like in 60s wardrobe, that was like, oh, maybe that has something to do with.
Maybe it was cosplay.
Yeah, 3 a.m. by herself though.
Oh, but this is the 90s, right?
This is the 90s.
So there was no cosplay going on.
Yeah,
in the 90s.
yeah. The whole walking through the Well, fast forward. There's a couple other stories. There's a one that I always remember. It's a favorite story. I don't know the origin of this story, but it's from one of my uncles. This is from Mexico. The place in Mexico where my parents are from is Michoacan, in that area. It's a lot of agriculture, so a lot of people work, you know, work in either corn or whatever. This specific one was corn, maíz, and
corn, Godsmack, yeah.
Deftones, Iron Maiden,
Metallica.
Well, they were in the fields, and these dudes would wake up at like 4 a.m. to go start work or whatever, and it's a group of 3, and he pulled into the middle of where they were going to be working deep into the cornfields, and he was early, and he had his flashlight on him, which is what they all had, you know, and he was waiting for his 2 other coworkers so they could start work. And they used to get there by bike because they didn't have cars, or they didn't have, you know, all they had was bikes. So he got there in his bike, and he's put his bike down. And once he gets there, you know, he's in the dark, and, you know, wind's blowing. It's in this weird cornfield, and he hears like people walking through the cornfield. And it's like, oh, that's weird. No one should be here. He thought it was them. And it looked like a bunch of young kids, but they looked off according to the story, the way that goes. And they try to like beat him up and grab him, and they said they looked like kids with adult faces.
Interesting.
And there's it's, I mean, you know, that for me, I love hearing the story, but it's just
it's like that baby.
Yeah, like that baby I just showed you. Yeah. And then they tried to pull him away, and he started, you know, pushing them off, and then he heard the bells from his coworkers' bikes, so they ran away when they heard more people coming. They're trying to pull him with them, like, we're taking you with us, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then those 2 other guys got there, and they're like, these fucking whatever, just try to they try to beat me up or something. Like, it was weird. Like, they were walking in the dark. You know, they looked weird, and they looked like meth heads. Like, you know, he like not meth. You know, just like drug addicts or something. They were off. And he's like, "Are you sure you weren't just like imagining all this?" And then he said, "No, man." And they looked at his hands, and he had like handprints, like from somebody really strong grabbing him. And then, you know, and then they went to go fucking get corn. Now you gotta work the rest of the day with that shit on your head. That was another story from Mexico that I remember hearing. You know, it's crazy. I worked at Richmond Country Club. Are you familiar?
Yes.
I didn't think Richmond had a country club.
Yeah.
Usually country clubs are for people with money.
Well, I met Don Nelson, the old man, the old coach head coach for the.
Give me that look. I live in Richmond. I ain't got no money either.
No, it's one of the nicest.
Shout out to all our Richmond listeners. Much love.
It's one of the nicest.
Hope y'all get to leave them city limits someday.
No. It's changing, so stick around.
Yeah.
It's one of the nicest golf courses in the Bay Area, believe it or not. Samuel Jackson went there when I was working there. Willie McGee. I don't want to be. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't say these names.
No. Go ahead.
But yeah, a lot of people go there, and it's actually very well kept. My dad works there. So
Interesting.
yeah, but I used to work there also, and there was a couple of weird incidents. Like the I had an incident where I used to work polishing shoes in the locker room, the men's locker room. I had my own little booth, and I used to polish shoes. Yeah. Go get your shine box. Remember Goodfellas? Go get your fucking shine box. That was me. You motherfucker. Yeah. I was working. I did everything there, but at this particular job, I did the. I was shining shoes and cleaning shoes, and this day was weird. Oh, goodbye kiss. I waited for it. I know. Phil saying goodbye to his lover. So on this day, I was working it was after school job. I was still in high school, and I was working the locker room. There was usually nobody there by 6:30, 6. I started my shift at 7, so it was basically just me sitting in a room with the TV on and polishing shoes, and you know, just pretty much the best kind of job to have as a teenager, just sitting on your ass, chilling. Yeah, so I'm there.
The truth.
Yeah, I'm polishing these shoes, and I fucking I hear the door open on the entrance of the locker room, and the way the locker room set up was, you know, the entrance, and then there was a couple of hallways in there with a bunch of locker rooms. Right. Very small. I hear the door open. I'm like, oh shit, somebody's here. And usually these dudes, they're done playing golf. They're rich guys. They're done playing golf. They take off their dirty cleats, and they give them to me, and they may slip me a 10 or 20. You know, here you go. Thank you for cleaning my shoes. Yeah. I was excited. Cool, man. Some tips coming in. I heard the door open, and I heard footsteps walking into the hallway of the locker room. I got out of my little area, and I looked, and I saw the door close. And I heard footsteps, so I followed where the footsteps were, and I kept hearing them. They were circling around, and then I just followed, and then I went, and I was like going to see who this person is, and there was nobody there. Then the footsteps stopped. I was like, oh, that's weird. So then I go back to my little booth, and then I hear a locker open and close, and then I heard it close, and then I was like, so maybe I missed him. So I went back to where I thought it was, and I looked everywhere. And it's not like these dudes are fucking fast. They're old dudes, so I would have seen them if you would have, you know. Right. And I see that everything's closed. There's nobody there, and it's just kind of weird. I went out to the bar and talked to the bartender, and I said, hey, did you see somebody come in? And he was counting cash at the end of the day for him. He's like, no, actually, there's nobody here. I'm gonna wrap it up early because all the members are gone. There was actually an incident. Like, what happened? One of the members had a heart attack out in the field, and he died. And I was like, And then he's like, why? Because I looked a little like off, you know. I was like, yeah, this is weird, man. I just heard like footsteps, and he looked at me like, yes, like he looked at me like, yeah, and then he's like, you wanna know something? I was here because the bar where the bottles were kept, they have mirror, and where the bottles are at, you know, fancy bar.
Yeah.
And he said he was cleaning up one day, and when he put a bottle back where the mirror thing is at, he saw in the mirror the reflection, saw 3 people sitting at the bar. And then he turned and there was nobody there because it's empty. So he's like, that was his experience. He's like, I guess things like that happen very regularly at the Richmond Country Club.
Okay.
And as soon as he told me that, I went back into my little room and I just locked myself in there and I blasted my headphones and I didn't want to I think I didn't even complete my shift. I just left.
I just imagine you sitting there like fucking Five Nights at Freddy's, just like checking the door, checking the window, turning the radio on, looking at the monitor.
I had the A's game blasting because I didn't want to fucking like hear anything. And then you know what's funny? I had one of my boys working there, and he was the dishwasher. Yeah, we were still in high school at this point, and I didn't tell him anything. I guess this thing with the country club was we get new people in, and let's wait and see if they experience something. So, he's working there, and his shift ended late also, and on the weekends. And one day, he told me he ran out on his shift. Because his job was to wash all the dishes and then mop at the end of the day. So the next day we came in, the floors were mopped, and he got kind of chewed up for it. And I asked him, hey, why didn't you mop up? What happened? He explained to me. This is after my incident, you know. And I never told him this story. So he said apparently when he was mopping, he was the last person in the building. And he actually heard a party going on in the banquet room. He heard people talking and the piano playing. Somebody playing the piano. There's an old piano there in the banquet room. And he said while he was mopping, he was like, what the hell? Like, I don't know. We were having another party. And I thought that we were alone. He said he walked out and the lights were off and it's an empty room. So... as soon as he saw that, he just ended up like leaving right on, which, you know, I mean, I think anyone would do that if you heard some shit like that.
No, definitely. There's no question. I'd have done the same.
Yeah. So, when last time we were talking about Frosted Mini Fears, I had mentioned that, there was that channel, The Little Fears, that my friend Chad had sent me, to be like, hey, I think we should do something like this. What do you think? There was one story she had done on there that was the one I had watched to make me go, you know what? This is something we could do. And what it was it was a story about this woman who she had like rented a cabin in the woods, you know, like a vacation home. You know, apparently that's the thing people fucking do. Like Evil Dead does that. Fucking people just rent spooky ass fucking cabins in the woods. Right?
Yeah, some people do rent cabins in the woods.
So she had rented this cabin in the woods for like a vacation or a getaway or whatever. And so she's driving, can't find this fucking cabin. She's getting all turned around. It's getting late. It's getting dark. She's driving. Finally, she finds this fucking cabin, right? So she parks. She unlocks the cabin. She tosses her stuff down. It's the middle of the night. She's exhausted from driving all night. So she finds the bedroom, just fucking passes out on the bed, goes to sleep, right?
In the cabin.
Yeah, as she's going to sleep, she notices all these weird fucking portraits on the wall of all these like creepy old people, and they all look like they're fucking staring at her. But she's so fucking tired, she's like, I'm just going to bed. So she passes out, wakes up the next morning and sees there are no portraits on the wall, just windows.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So that's when I was like, you know, we could do this.
That was like, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. Have you personally had any ghost encounters or anything?
So,
like, because it's, you know what, it's not that I'm not a believer.
Yeah.
I love the stories.
Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking though. Like, because me personally, I don't really believe in like ghosts and demons and monsters and stuff.
Right.
So like that kind of stuff.
Which is easy to understand why.
Yeah. Like it doesn't scare me because I don't believe in it. So there could have been shit happening and I'm just like fucking wind.
Or maybe
just blowing these doors open and close as I'm trying to work.
Right. Well, however, Phil, if you don't mind me saying on the podcast, you are a believer in Christ.
I am.
And the Bible does...
You wouldn't know it because I curse a lot. I need to work on that. He ain't done with me.
Right. But the Bible does have, in the New Testament in particular, does have instances where Jesus exorcised demons from people. And you remember that story about Legion? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Said there's a guy who was cutting himself and talking to himself and yelling. And
he was possessed by all those demons.
He was called Legion because there were many of them.
Yeah.
So, demons do exist.
Well, the way I would counter that, like, I'm not saying I don't believe, but I can see other people's point of view. So I can see that could be a very, like a way to, what's the word I'm looking for? A way for people in those times to interpret that he was a good therapist. I mean, I don't know,
right?
Or because that's just. I mean, but I hear what you're saying,
right? I mean, in looking at it from a psychological / atheist perspective, you could say that the man that they encountered was schizophrenic, and had multiple personality disorder, and let's Jesus,
kill all these other personalities.
But even in modern times, there's no, you'd have to have medication for that. There is no one-time fix.
Right.
And I doubt that there would have been a person in that era that would have known the right kind of medication without any kind of clinical trials and stuff to fix that. It would have taken months, and there's no way that you consider all the things that Jesus is known to do in the time frame that he had to do them. If Jesus was just a normal dude and not Son of God with all the divine power, it would have taken him months, maybe years, to come up with something to treat this guy. Where in the ancient world they had no idea how to treat them. You know what I mean? He would have spent his lifetime figuring out how to cure this guy of his multiple personality syndrome, if at all. So it makes more sense to go, because if he really was successful in driving the demons out, it makes more sense for him to go, all right, you're healed, I'm walking away. So I can go and do all the other things that the New Testament says I do.
But yeah, no. So basically,
because real science takes a long time.
Yeah.
So like for example, I don't remember if this was right before we started Frosted Mini Fears or right after, but it was right in that same time frame. We were shooting this short film down in Santa Cruz, and my friend Sal, his family owns this hotel with like an Italian restaurant connected to it. I forget what the hotel is called. The restaurant was called Ristorante Barolo. And so we were going down there. We're going to stay at his family's hotel for a night and film this thing at the restaurant the next day. Right. So we went down to fucking Santa Cruz for a weekend and hung out at my friend's hotel. The whole time we're going down there, my friend is telling me that like some shit happens at this hotel. You're going to hear some shit. We're pretty sure it's haunted. There's nothing we can fucking do about it. Right. And of course, since I don't believe in that shit, I'm just like, okay, yeah, whatever you say, Sal. Whatever you say. And so we're at this hotel, and like me and my friend Jerry get a room, and then my friend Chad, my friend Sal, they get a room, right? And I fucking sleep like a baby. Like the fucking best night's sleep I've ever had. Just out like a light, sleep the whole night through. Wake up the next day, my buddy Jerry's fucking still standing in the same spot he was when I went to sleep. Like he didn't sleep at all that night. And I'm like, did you stand there all fucking night?
Jerry was a germaphobe.
He was a germaphobe. He didn't like being in new places and touching new things.
I remember when we were filming Black Suits, and it was you, me, Randy, Ryan, and Jerry, and I couldn't go to sleep because he was standing over us pacing, and I was like, good Lord. Like I could hear his footsteps. Why don't you just you have to be tired. How are you just pacing for hours and hours? Aren't you sleepy? Aren't you at least a little bit tired? What's wrong with you?
So I'm talking to him the next day because I knew all that as well, that he was weird and didn't like new things.
Sunlight comes up.
And I'm just like, you didn't even sit in the fucking chair. He's like, Phil, you didn't hear like all these fucking footsteps all night. I'm like, it's a hotel, Jerry. There's gonna be footsteps. And he's like, there's no other guests. This is just us four. And I'm like, well, maybe fucking Chad or Sal went for a walk. And they're like, where? Walk where, Phil? Where would they be going? Just up and down the stairs all night? And I'm like, Jay, just...
Yeah, the thing about hotels, too, is, like, high traffic area, so, like, shit creaks up a lot.
Yeah.
And that happens everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
But he was the one that... Not you.
Yeah, he's the one who's saying that like he was hearing footsteps all night and he was hearing all these weird sounds. And I'm like, well, I slept like a baby. I don't know about you. I slept just fine. So most likely there have been shit that's happened to me.
That's good.
I just brush it off like because I'm you know me, I'm kind of an instigator. Yeah. That's one word for it. Yeah. Like, you know, I fucking wore a Ghostbuster costume to fucking, you know, fear overload.
House, yeah.
And I would legit, if you told me like, man, this place is haunted. This abandoned beer factory, it's fucking haunted. There's ghosts, there's demons. I'd be like, let's go. I'll bring my proton pack. It'll be a great Instagram story. You know?
I think the term I would use for you is provocateur.
That sounds erotic.
Yeah, instigator implies
I like
it. Instigator implies that you are getting involved in other people's drama, right? That's instigation. But if you are the cause of something interesting, that's you're provoking it. It's provocateur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm kind of that asshole who would like. My girlfriend, like, she's super like paranoid about like demons and stuff, and she always says, she's like, when we get a new place, you know, I'm gonna have that shit blessed, and I'm like, hope you kept the receipt, because I'm a fucking messing around with a Ouija board while you're doing that. Jesus. It's made by Parker Brothers. How dangerous could it be?
Buy it and find out. No, you know what? It's one thing to like experience something in a hotel or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or going somewhere like a ghost town and you see something, you know, all right, yeah, maybe sometimes. But it's a trip when you actually see something in your house, because that's your fucking place.
Yeah, like
I actually had an experience.
Yeah, like I remember being a little kid, and I must have been super little because it was before my parents got divorced, and they split up when I was like 6. So I must have been somewhere under 6. And I remember like middle of the night getting up to use the bathroom and just seeing like somebody standing at the bottom of our staircase in the middle of the night.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh, so you have seen something.
I mean, I was like 5.
You don't know what to say about it. It's weird. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I was 5. It could have been a dream. It could have been my dad just getting ready for work. Although they were just standing there, they weren't moving.
Yeah.
And
you know what's crazy is well, I'll talk about this later, but you mentioned being that young, like a lot of people, especially religious people, when they talk about imaginary friends, you know, they wonder if that's like a demonic thing attacking the kid or whatever, you know. But I personally don't remember this. This is a story my mom shares with family about me, because I used to have an imaginary friend, and I terrorized the shit out of my mom over it. I don't know how I was younger than 5, obviously. Yeah. Maybe like 3 or 4. I have no memory of this, but I used to say to my mom, hey, can you make us a sandwich? You know, whenever I was home. And she would look at me weird, you know, this is strange. She's saying us all the time. And I would have conversations by myself in my little play area. And then sometimes I would come running to her crying because the imaginary friend would hurt me. And this happened for a long time, that she would be afraid of hanging out with me alone at home, because she's like, I don't know what this imaginary friend's going to do today. But I have no memory of this at all. Yeah. But like I was saying earlier, that you know, when you experience things in your home.
Yeah, because your home is supposed to be.
It's where you're disarmed.
Like, I hate using the word safe space.
It is.
But you know, that's what it's supposed to be.
That's where you're chill and you're you're fucking relaxing. So this actually happened. You know how I remember when this happened? This happened when. Were you guys ever left alone at like what's the age you guys were left alone?
All the fucking time. I come from.
Well, how old were you though? Like
I think I'd be like
10,
7 or 8, and my dad would like leave me alone with my 3-year-old little brother while he went out to like score drugs and shit. So.
All right, I don't feel bad saying this.
You know, I wasn't left alone until my grandmother got cancer, and she had to go into the hospital, And I think I might have been 11 at the time when she first got cancer, because my grandfather worked. But throughout my childhood, I got to experience, even though I didn't grow up with my parents per se, I grew up with my grandparents. And I got to experience that old-fashioned notion of a two-parent household where the father figure went out and worked and brought home the bacon, and the mother figure took care of the house and grew the vegetables in the garden and, you know, took the bill money and ran the errands, paid the bills, did the grocery shopping while the husband worked. And I would come home and grandma would be there. You know, the afternoon cartoons were on. You remember Fox used to have like a block for kids after school, and I would watch, like, you know, that with a snack or whatever, and then go do homework, and then grandpa came home and we had dinner.
All right.
You know, and but when she had to go in for treatment, I became a latchkey kid dang near overnight. And I know people who have lived their entire lives, their entire childhoods that way, and I just can't imagine it. You know, I'm just like, what do you mean you were coming home from kindergarten by yourself and there was no one home?
Yeah.
What if something happened? What if the house burned down? But I get it. You know, single parent households is difficult.
I had to look at what time this movie came out because I had to remember how old I was. So this came out, Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, the first one, came out 2002. So I was 12. So I was like, 12 is a good age to be home alone. But this day, this is the first time I ever saw something that I remember. It was in a house over by Contra Costa College. We were renting that house out. It was a 5-bedroom house, 2 big old living rooms, so family room and living room, and I had slept upstairs. And early on, my family said they experienced stuff, but I didn't believe in it. You know, I was like a little 12-year-old that I was like, I'm not afraid of anything. You know, kind of a. The first thing that happened at that house was my sister put all her stuff in her room that when we were moving in. The next day she came back and she found everything kind of torn apart. The boxes were open. They were like ripped apart. Things were everywhere. I figured maybe the fucking landlord's, you know, crackhead, the landlord's crackhead nephews or something came in, tried to go through our stuff. That's what I thought. You know, obviously that seems like the most plausible thing. A couple of months after we already moved in, so it's Spider-Man had came out, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Just, you know, at that time that was like the dopest shit to go see. And this day, it was Friday, we were gonna go watch it. My cousins, my brother, everyone. I came home from school, I had a headache, and this just so happened like everyone had plans to go out, including myself. But I guess after school, so I had a headache. I knocked out. My brother came home from work. And he was going to drive us to the theater. Saw that I was asleep. Decided, might as well not wake him up. Got ready. Left without me. I woke up to an empty house, all dark. And I wasn't afraid, you know, but I went downstairs. And I turned on the TV in the what would you consider the first room? The family room or the living room? Like as you come into the entrance, what is it?
Every house is built a little differently.
Yeah, but they call one the family room and the living room.
They have a family room, a living room. Sometimes usually they call it
front one's a living room, and then the back one is the family room.
Yeah,
or wherever the TV is the family room.
Yeah, that's where your family kicks it. And the living room is where you entertain your guests. Right.
So I guess the first one in here is the family room, but it was just like a one step, and then it's the living room. So I'm in the kitchen getting something to drink, and I have the TV on, and I'm by myself, and realize like, fuck, I slept. They took off without me. I come back to the family room, and I can see all the way down. So we had a street light in our backyard because of the way the house was built, and the street lights, the light from the outside, you know, was shining through the window. And as I was watching TV on my peripherals, I saw a silhouette, a form, a dark figure, move into where the window was at. So the light reflecting from the outside, all of a sudden there's someone standing out in like a form, a person. Mm-hmm. I immediately thought, I'm probably just imagining something, or somebody's on the outside of the window looking in, and that concerned me. So I was like, I better sit down. Hopefully they don't see me. But then I also thought maybe let's get up and turn on lights so they think someone's home. Because I had seen Home Alone. I figured work for Kevin McAllister's going to work for me. So I get up and I'm about to turn on the lights because I think this is somebody outside looking in. But once I get up and I look straight at this figure, I realize it's actually something inside. Because then the windows, the silhouette is on one side, and it starts to walk. And as it's walking, it looks like a black shadow. But as it's walking, it actually I hear footsteps, and the footsteps are heading towards the stairs. And I figured I am tripping, like I'm not seeing that. And that's As soon as it goes away, it disappears. It walks through from one side of the window to the other, and I see it walking, and obviously I can see because of the light. I see that it walked towards the stairs. My room's upstairs also. I hear footsteps walking upstairs all the way to the very top of the stairs. There's quite 2 flights of stairs. So I heard footsteps. I thought I was just tripping. I thought it was just I'm seeing something. But once I heard stairs, it's like, all right, I'm seeing, and now I'm here. And this thing looked like a dark shadow thing. And I don't know what to do, because this is the time where, if someone's out, you have no way to get in contact with them. There's no cell phones, Well, there was, but we just didn't have them.
It is the dark ages.
Yeah, for us.
You needed a computer to go on the internet.
Yeah. And so that happened to me, and then I was scared, so I just I didn't want to call 911 because I clearly saw it wasn't a person. So I just went to my parents' room, and I slept there until they got home from wherever the casino they were. So that was my first experience actually seeing something myself that I couldn't understand. Shortly after that, we had a computer compact Presario. You know what I'm talking about, Phil?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We had a compact Presario in the living room, and when it was on, you could hear the typing. The old keyboards, it's fucking super loud. You could hear the typing on, and you can see the reflection of the monitor from the other room. So really late at night, one of my sisters came out, and she went to the bathroom, and she heard the computer going off, and she saw the light from the monitor. She thought it was another sister of mine. So her thought was, I'm going to go scare her because she shouldn't be up. She's up really late. So she got behind the chimney which separated the two, and then she jumped out and was going to scare her. She did that. Boom. There was nobody there. Their monitor was off. And it was just like, oh, shit. And that was fucking, she got scared.
Right. Because it's like, how was this on?
Yeah. And it all happened in that room, that living room, the living room. That's all out of activity. Another time, a cousin who was visiting, she said, what was that? I was like, what? That same window where I saw the silhouette. Mm-hmm. She said she saw a white guy staring out the window crying. And then that's weird. Okay, we don't know what that is. Maybe it was Phil. I don't know.
Ain't nothing scarier than a white dude crying.
Yeah, something must have happened. Something horrible.
Seriously.
So she kept it to herself, and then one day a bunch of knives and spoons were out. Like we left the kitchen, clean, and then the next day somebody pulled out knives and spoons and just put them everywhere in the kitchen, and stuff like that just started happening on a daily basis. So the computer incident scared one of my sisters. So the owner of the computer, my oldest sister, took that to her room. She says, you know what? Because it bothers. There's conflict because of the computer. It's the bright light, and I'm gonna keep it in my room, which was one of the upstairs rooms. They ran a separate phone line for the computer back, DSL, and we would get constantly when that sister was gone, we would constantly get phone calls from that landline to our house, and that was even with everything unplugged, it was like a phone call coming from up there. And once I worked in the telecom field, I know that's kind of impossible. So that was an odd thing. And then one incident another incident that I had someone knock the door where I was home alone again. I was probably older at this point. Someone was knocking the front door. I unlocked the door and I opened it, and then they closed it. And like, someone's playing with the door. Like, what the fuck? Did it again, and they closed it again. So then at this point, I opened it again, unlocked it, and then I opened it, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I was ready to like confront whoever. I thought it was one of my sisters playing a prank. There was nobody there. And we found out that somebody, I think quite a bit of people had actually passed away in the house from a fire. And I don't know if that had anything to do with that, but that's...
I mean, I have my own Home Alone story, but it's not it's kind of a scary story, but not as scary like ooh ghosts. More like, oh, he got a whooping. A bad whooping. Because I think I mentioned earlier, my dad used to like work for the university. He'd have to get up at like 3 a.m. to go for work. So he'd go to bed at like 8 o'clock at fucking night. Uh-huh. And there was one night, a little fucking 5-6-year-old Phil, don't know what came over him, decided to take all the shoelaces out of his work boots and tie them together across the top of the staircase, and then set up a bunch of Hot Wheels at the bottom of the staircase and just booby trap my house in the middle of the night.
Somebody had seen Home Alone recently.
I had seen Home Alone, and I was a madman.
Yeah.
And so I just remember like sleeping like a baby, and then I wake up the next morning, and my poor mother is just sitting on the foot of my bed waiting for me to wake up. And she just looked so worried, and she just had this look of just somber, morose on her, and she was just like, oh, baby, I don't know if I can help you this time. And I don't remember the whooping I got, but all of a sudden I was 10.
Talk about blackout for trauma.
Yeah. So I just have this image of my fucking dad at like 3 a.m, like half asleep, going downstairs to make his coffee, fucking tripping on the goddamn shoestring. What the almost falling down the stairs, catching himself, makes it to the bottom of the stairs, fucking Hot Wheels. What the fuck? Hot Wheels.
See, this is why some parents are cautious about the kinds of things they show their kids in the media, because you don't want your kid to get the idea that, hey, let me try that, right? And I'm not gonna lie, when as a kid had a similar thought, because my grandparents would get stuff for my birthday, stuff for Christmas, and they would always work really hard to keep it a secret, and so I was talking to grandma. I was like, you know what, because I had seen Home Alone recently, I'm gonna rig up this. I was a talker. I'm gonna rig up this tile trap, and I'm gonna do this, and use what I have this way. It'll be great, and get grandpa when he's trying to transport the gifts. And then my grandmother sat me down and was like, you could hurt your grandpa that way, possibly kill him, because in the movies, it's cartoon violence, it's not real. But if a real person and not an actor were to sustain that kind of damage, they may get really hurt. Is that what you want to do to your grandpa? And I was like, no. No, but I luckily I had a conversation with a wiser older person about it, and they were able to explain the difference between reality and fantasy and how it's presented in the movie. Poor Phil over here. Didn't have that opportunity. Discussion.
I never did it again. Never underestimate the power of a whooping.
You know what?
Right?
That's crazy. Like, you said the media though. Like, there's a story that of something that happened in Mexico. And it's not the media. This family lived in a rural area where they specifically had a chicken farm, and they were they slaughtered chickens on a daily basis, I guess. So one day, this kid, the son of the farmers, the wife and the husband, their son, their oldest son, very quiet kid most of his life. He saw his parents chopping the heads off of chickens and however they slaughtered. One day he just snapped and he cut his mom's heads off. And just one day, just snapped, and he actually decapitated his mom.
How old was this kid?
I think he was in his 18 or 19, but he was when they asked him why he did it, apparently his reasons were he saw it. He saw like they did it to chickens all the time. He wondered what it felt like to do it to a human.
That is a psychopath.
Yeah.
Because when you do it to a chicken, it's dead.
Yeah.
So you know you're going to kill your mom. You were just trying to see how the body reacts. Yeah, that kid deserves to be locked up for the rest of his life, away from the rest of us.
He was locked up. Yeah.
Especially if you give that kind of answer. Ooh,
that's cold.
There isn't a psychological board in the planet that'll clear you to come back to the rest of us.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Since this is a Halloween episode, you guys have any fond memories of Halloween? I'm not trying to do the like just
the whole horror aspect.
Well, yeah, but just Halloween in general.
So
like,
I've had some fun.
I've had some crazy
fun
in Halloween.
I will say this, probably the most enjoyable Halloween experience I can remember having recently was probably about, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. And what it was is we had a film in a horror film festival. Mm-hmm. We ended up winning the award given out at that horror film festival. I was rocking a sweet Dick Tracy costume that night. And I had just gotten hired at like 2 new jobs that week. I got hired at a TV station. I got hired at the photo and video lab I'm working at now. And like I got hired that week. So that week was just fucking great. Like the day I got hired, I got this award. I started 2 jobs the following Monday, had my sweet Dick Tracy costume. Me and my friends went to this film festival, got to watch all these people watch our film and react to it, which is kind of weird. It's always weird watching your own work with other people for the first time.
That is weird.
You know, like when we screened Snipe Hunt for the first time, like I had to go outside. I was like, I can't really sit here and watch people react to this. Just let me know when it's done.
I don't like watching it. Like some of the stuff I've been in. I like to when someone says, "Can I see your stuff on YouTube, comedy-wise?"
Yeah.
I don't have a good video on YouTube, and I have one video.
I keep telling you that like I want to film your set and give you that good production value.
Right, but when people
and then always it's like the day of, you're like, oh yeah, I mean about that. I'm not feeling very funny today. Can we reschedule?
When they do find the video of my stand-up on, it's a video. It's like my second time performing. It's not the best. When they do watch it though, I can't be present when they're watching it. I have to step away. Like, tell me when it's done. I have to But anyways, back to the Halloween thing.
Right. So that was a great. Yeah. That was probably my favorite Halloween. Is the fucking film. I mean, you were there for that.
That was an amazing day. And that will go down as possibly. Was that actually Halloween night?
It was Halloween night, and
that's the greatest Halloween night in my life.
The funniest part though is we're at this film festival, and there's like little kids there, and there's like horror films about like the man in the yellow hat being chased by Curious George.
Curious George was supposed to be Michael Myers.
Yeah, they like took a scene from Halloween and replaced it with Curious George and the man in the yellow hat.
The man in the yellow hat was the therapist that shoots Michael.
Dr. Loomis.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So there's all these little things like that, and I'm just like, oh, it's this kind of festival.
A chimp would be scarier than Michael Myers.
Well, then they play our film, which was Tolerance, which is him like tied to a chair in a boiler room somewhere being tortured for 7 minutes. And it's like very intense and graphic. And I just look around and there's all these like kids just sitting there. And I'm like, oh I'm kind of uncomfortable now. Mission accomplished.
Well, you know, there was like 1 or 2 other straight-laced horror shorts though.
But I think ours was like the first like straight horror one that played.
Yeah.
And we came right after the Curious George
one.
You won.
Yeah,
we won. But at the same time, I'm just like,
Jesus Christ.
Oh, I didn't know it was going to be like this.
Well, I mean, like I said, we did have real competition that came after us though.
Yeah.
Like, for a minute, I was like, ooh.
But this happened as adults.
Yeah. This was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
Whenever, because one of my, this is a memory as a child for Halloween that I remember. I went trick-or-treating with the cousins as probably 6 years old, and one of my older cousins was driving at the time, so she drove us. And we went to a haunted house, which, was like a community haunted house, which was, we were scared.
Yeah.
But then this was what are those what is that called, wagon, a family wagon, one of those
Station
cars.
wagon?
Station wagon. Yeah. We were driving in their station wagon, and the station wagon like stopped. It just died on us in North Richmond. And this is 90s.
Oh shit!
This
North
is 90s,
Richmond.
90s North Richmond, and on Halloween day where motherfuckers running around. That was probably the scariest shit, and scarier than anything that's ever happened.
Oof. We're at an hour 15. Yeah, no, we're good. But yeah, so how about you, Joaquin? You got any good Halloween memories?
I had plenty. Were we only supposed to talk about like our one and only favorite?
No, if
you can talk whatever.
I mean,
I'm just talking about Halloween memories in general.
I don't think
related to the holiday.
I believe I've had more awesome Halloweens, far more awesome Halloweens than I've had Valentine's Days.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people can say that, but you know,
I personally don't like Valentine's.
You know, even when I was Valentine's Day,
even when I was in a relationship.
There's so much fucking pressure when you're in a relationship.
I mean,
and when you're not in a relationship, you want to just fucking jump into traffic.
If you do things, I mean, if you kind of like spoil, or I don't know, spoil, but you know, like not spoil, but you know, if you treat each other, Valentine's is not.
I've never had a good Valentine's Day.
It's all
Something
hype,
always
man.
seems to go wrong on Valentine's Day.
My thing is, I adore Valentine's Day. I'm a huge romantic.
Oh shit!
And like teddy bears, flowers, her favorite flowers. Like, not that I don't do little things throughout the year, but it's like that's that one special day where, you know, I don't know. It's dope. It's dope. I like it.
I see what you're saying. I feel me personally like it doesn't compare to Halloween though. Like I had more fun with my ex, or like, you know, like in relationships, like on Halloween with them than on.
I've never done anything with a significant other on Halloween.
You should. It's
you know,
fun.
that's always been like night out with the fellas. You know,
yeah.
So
well, that can be that too.
You know, that's usually how that's been. But you know, as far as Halloween is concerned, like so many memories. All right, I love the costumes, right? You know, especially when you're a kid. My grandmother would not let me would not forbid me from playing Mortal Kombat when Mortal Kombat first came out and it was hot.
What?
You know, because of all the blood.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mentioned I grew up in a religious household, so that was a thing. But the whole Earth realm and the Eternia and all that kind of stuff.
And the music was eerie, so it seemed evil.
You know, so my grandmother was just like, However, I managed to kind of get a small victory in that my grandmother used to pay this lady in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood was called Sherwood Forest. Mm-hmm. There was a Robin Hood Drive. I think it was a Friar Tuck Avenue. You know, that's why it was called Sherwood Forest. Right, because it had different names associated with Robin Hood. Mm-hmm. And she lived on Mary Drive. You know, like Merryman, Mary that Mary, mm-hmm. And she designed all my costumes, all through my childhood, essentially. And like, you know, we didn't just go to Walmart and get the costume.
That's better.
We would go to her and say, all right, well, this year, and I wasn't allowed to dress up as a ghoul or a goblin.
Something good.
It was always something like a pirate or Zorro or, but my favorite costume I think that I ever dressed up in was this ninja. And it wasn't quite I wanted to be a Mortal Kombat ninja. I tried to sneak it in, but the best that I could do was I had a black ninja costume that she designed and she sewed up from scratch with two different face masks to cover my mouth. One was black, the other was red. I had black ties around the wrist, or I could have red ties around the wrists and ankles. And on the back, the dragon symbol for Mortal Kombat in red over on the back of the costumes. Very, very dope. I had so much fun that year walking around with Sai and just like challenging whoever. There was another ninja in the neighborhood and we had a fake battle and my grandmother was like, no, you messed up the costume, chill. There was a Chinese restaurant that had just opened up and it was the only Chinese restaurant in town. for several miles
Appropriating.
because it's it's Arkansas. No, it was really not appropriated. It was run by
kidding.
Chinese people.
No, you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess it's Japanese.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But you know what's funny is that they asked me when we went in, are you a? And I think they were just playing with me because the ninjas are Japanese, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not Chinese. But I think that the owner was screwing with me because I was a kid and he went, "Are you a Chinese ninja or a Japanese ninja?" I was too ignorant to know that he was screwing around with me, and I was just like, Japanese. Then you're a shinobi. He was really playing on my ignorance. I look that jerk up sometimes. Like, hey, what are you trying to say? You know,
You come back to him as an anime expert.
Well, see, I remember being a little kid, and like, I was that weird kid that like wasn't into like basketball or baseball or football, but I was super into
Ditto.
like Star Trek and Godzilla
Ghostbusters.
and all this shit. So I remember like I would always have like these like I'd always want to dress up for stuff you couldn't buy in a store. Like I wanted to be Ultraman. If anybody fucking follows Japanese tokusatsus,
Yeah,
I wanted to be Ultraman. My mom had to fucking try and make an Ultraman costume from scratch. I remember I wanted to be Kamen Rider one year, and you know, it's like, fuck, that's a Japanese thing. You can't get that over here. So like I remember we got like a gas mask and like put antennas on it and like painted it and tried to make it look like the helmets they wear in Kamen Rider. I was trying to go as Kamen Rider Black RX. So like all these fucking like Japanese superheroes that nobody's ever fucking heard of.
For those of you listening at home, Ultraman is basically the Japanese version of Hank Pym.
Oh, okay,
Giant
okay,
man.
okay.
It grows
Yeah.
big.
Well, yeah,
Fights
there's
monsters.
a whole family of them. There's different Ultramans. It's kind of like Power Rangers where there's different ones for every generation.
You're one of those. Huh?
And he's a giant superhero who fights giant
Yeah.
monsters.
So instead of a team of like 5 Power Rangers, it's one guy
That's-
that
yeah.
grows big.
Yeah, and then Kamen Rider, we've tried to adapt it in America as Masked Rider a few times. We tried to adapt Kamen Rider Black RX as Masked Rider for Saban, and it lasted one season and wasn't very good.
There was also a Kamen Rider series that was running on 4Kids TV. for
Yeah,
a
that was
while,
Kamen
too.
Rider Dragon Knight.
And they were a team as opposed to being one guy.
Yeah, and that one, I think it lasted the same thing, like one season. And
So
then
it was a
turned.
difficult custom to get.
It's a very difficult kind of had to like make from scratch. Nobody knew who the fuck I was.
Yeah.
Everybody else is like,
you know what's crazy? You said that because I wanted to be a Power Ranger when I was like 5 because you know the show was fucking popular at the time.
Yeah.
And I asked my mom to buy me. You know, I want to be that. I just pointed at the TV and you know her not speaking the language and you know like yeah sure. She went out and bought this. It was like a blue. I forgot what it was called. It was like one of those knockoffs. Mm-hmm. It wasn't Power Rangers. It was like Space Patrol agent.
Uh-huh.
And people were asking me, "What are you?" I'm a Power Ranger. Like, no, you're not. And I would get really like,
yeah.
mad.
Yeah, and like I remember there was one year for Halloween I went as like Worf from Star Trek.
Oh shit! Yeah.
You know,
Oh, nice.
so
You did a lot of your own costumes though.
a lot growing up, a lot of it was like store bought, but there'd be things like I remember one year I went as like Captain America because I found like this Captain America costume at like a J.C. Penney or something. I was like, oh my god, I have to have that
Yeah.
because this is like 1993, and finding any kind of like superhero costume that's not Batman or Superman or Spider-Man is super fucking hard. But it didn't have a shield, so I'd like make my own shield out of like a big ass cardboard box that I like cut a big circle out of and made straps for and colored it in with like Sharpies and markers and stuff. So I would do stuff like that. And then as I got older and started to have my own money, then things started to get more elaborate. Like when I was like, I'm a big Superman fan. And so when I was in college, I had my own like Superman costume, like custom made for me. Like I designed my own Superman shield and had the suit made with that on there and had a cape made with that on the back and had it made to my specs and everything.
It looks a lot better when you have your own.
Yeah. I can't wear it anymore because I'm fat now.
Oh yeah. No.
But when I was skinny, I would rock the shit out of that.
When was the last time you trick or treated? Like, what was the last?
Last year.
Oh,
No.
really?
No, I'm kidding.
Well, for me, it was. Well, so here's the thing: the last day that I went trick or treating, I was probably about 13 or 14. I used to hang out with two of my cousins. They're my age. remember we talked about what we were gonna do Halloween, and the whole time they were like, you know, I didn't care. I was like 14. Like I figured I'm not supposed to be trick or treating now, anyways, or 13. You know, and we agreed to have them come over and we'd order pizza and just watch scary movies. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's like the typical fucking plan. And
for sure.
They showed up, and these motherfuckers are in costume. Well, not costume, but they're like. So if I had the one of them had a black T-shirt, so he had like black Raider makeup. The other guy had like, just, you know, they're all wearing face paint according to their shirt color, and I'm like, what the fuck, you know, they're all dressed up, and I'm the only idiot not, and you know, because I thought we were just gonna hang out, and then they said, nah, we just decided last minute to dress up and let's go trick or treating. Let's go, come on. I had no plans on doing anything, so I found lipstick, and I just like. I put it all over my face, and then we were trick or treating. You know, everyone's costume made sense, but then they would always ask me, "What are you?" And my response was like, "Trick or treat!" Like, motherfucker, just give me the candy. Like, so,
yeah,
I have the card. Fucking appreciate the effort.
So 2 stories. One, the last time I went trick or treating, I want to say it was like 2006, 2007.
So you were what, like 20?
I was like in my 20s.
Yeah.
And I remember I went as Nightwing.
Oh, shit.
So I had like this spandex Nightwing costume, which feels like you're wearing nothing at all, which my friends pointed out anytime they would walk behind me. And then I had like this domino mask like glued to my face with spirit gum.
Wait, were you getting candy or just walking?
No, we were getting candy.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and I had like this mask glued to my face. And I remember like I looked on point.
Yeah.
I looked fucking on point because I was still skinny then and could rock spandex. But I remember like going home that night and like trying to get the mask off, and I used way too much spirit gum, and I couldn't get the mask off. Like I couldn't get a corner to lift up so I could get the spirit gum remover on there. So I'm like panicking, and I'm like in the shower, like trying to get this mask off. And all I can think is, I got work tomorrow. I can't show up like this. Like, so that was the last time I went trick or treating. But going back to your thing, when no one knew who the fuck you were, there was one Halloween. It was 2008. And me and my friends, we dressed up in costumes. We went to like San Francisco and hung around like the mall and the Metreon and stuff. And then we were going to this Halloween party later in the night. This is that day we are telling you about where my friend tried to fight Gasper, right?
Halloween parties are fun.
Yeah. But so I dressed up as Cyclops from the X-Men. So I had like the visor and had like an Xavier School for Gift. I was Cyclops in street clothes. So I had like an Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters t-shirt on with a leather jacket. And then I had like the visor, like the Cyclops visor. And then my buddy Randy went as Kato, you know, from like Green Hornet and Kato.
It makes sense for him.
Yeah. So he had like the shirt and the hat and the mask and everything. He was Kato. And then my one friend, Carlos, went as the Joker because Dark Knight had just come out. And then my other friend, Jerry, went as Michael Jackson. And so the whole time we're in the city, people are just going gaga over fucking Joker and Michael Jackson. No one gives a fuck about me and my friend Randy. Nobody knows who the fuck we are. People are like, are you that dude from Star Trek? I'm like, no, I'm Cyclops. Nobody knows who the fuck Randy is. You know, and we're over here feeling like the ugly girls at prom. Like, this is bullshit. Yeah, fuck these people.
I would have loved to see Kato because not a lot of people would know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. When we were in high school, because I would get together with Phil and company on Halloween day, and we would go trick-or-treating. My last time trick-or-treating on my own, I think, was 8th grade. Because I had moved out here, and I had this wizard's costume. That was the last costume that my grandmother had commissioned for me, and I was like, you know what, I want to get one more use out of it.
You know what? That seems like the perfect use to start trick or treating. We're over here trick or treating as adults.
You know, but the funny thing about it is that after that, and I met Phil and linked up with that crew, we still trick or treated. But for a while, I had this attitude of, man, you know, it's too bad we can't be going to like Halloween parties and mixing it up with girl. You know, we're still going over to houses. We're like dang near grown. And, I wanted to have that feeling of just kicking it and being social, with and I was like, man, we're teenagers, man. That's what we should be doing.
Like somebody's parents are out of town and they're having a holiday party.
Like in the
see
movies.
That in movies.
And not just in movies, but I knew people who didn't friggin' invite me. Who would do stuff like that. Yeah. So it wasn't like it never happened. People threw parties, and it wasn't necessarily parents out of town. It was, shout outs to my homie Brian, who invited me to his high school graduation party, which was chaperoned by parents, and it was a lot of fun. But anyway, as I shifted into adulthood, and I have this sort of I've close relationship with my godchild, right? And it has shifted my perspective on the matter. I saw a post last year and this year that really surmised how I feel about it. It says, a lot of people are critical because that's some teenagers do through high school continue to trick or treat because they'll take their little brothers and sisters trick or treating, or they themselves will go. And someone said, I don't care. Someone wrote, I see a lot of people posting and saying, your kids are too old to be trick-or-treating. I'm not giving them anything. But this person said, I don't care how old your kid is when they show up to my doorstep. I'm going to honor what little innocence they still have, because teenagers are still kids. Yeah. And that's something that
they're doing that than out drinking.
Drinking or robbing people or whatever mischief some teenagers can get into, and I'm not saying all teenagers are mischievous by nature, or
that it's not fun,
or that I'm kidding. But we were backyard wrestlers, for crying out loud. So we get into mischief with each other, but to see that kind of like I trying to hold on to that childhood part of yourself. Yeah, I'm giving you an extra large Snickers. Here you go, buddy.
I agree to a certain extent. Here's my experience with that. I actually did a trunk or treat maybe 2 years ago. It's 23rd and 23rd Street in Richmond. They had a trunk or treat during the daytime there was a bunch of kids going around. Stores were giving out candy, and this had been mentioned a long time prior to this, but we were one of the only groups that went and set up. And I don't know if you've been to a trunk or treat. We set up to decorate our trunk. I had jack-o'-lantern with fucking, what's that called? Dry ice coming out of it and glow sticks. So I had it set up, and skeletons were hanging, and I had a big old thing of candy. And the only thing that was, I agree with you. As if I see teenagers, I'll give them candy because I have in the past. But I at least got to hear happy Halloween and a thank you afterwards, especially as a teenager. If you come to my house and you're with that shit, like, you grab the candy yourself.
Yeah, that's
like,
disrespectful.
The fuck out of here, dude. I will fucking.
And the other thing too candy. Is you better be rocking a costume. I don't care if it's a sheet, but don't come up to me in your normal jeans and your t-shirt and sagging pants like you wear every day to school talking about trick or treat. Homie, put in some effort into that costume.
Yeah, because
because at that point you're not even having fun with it. You're just trying to get some free candy.
Fuck out of here.
We got adults cosplaying now on a regular basis, and you can't put some effort in your costume.
I get it if you don't have
home.
If you don't have money for costumes, because the motherfuckers are expensive.
That's why you put a sheet over your face and poke some holes in it. I'll even accept that. Wrap yourself in some toilet paper. Call yourself the mummy. I don't care. Just do something.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind the no costume, but at least fucking like, come on. At least say thank you.
You get a red backwards cap and cut your older brother's old jean jacket open and your Ash Ketchum. Yep. Fine.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
With a backpack and just be like, yo, I'm Ash. I'm a Pokemon trainer. I'll be like, all right, I'm with you.
So
I'm with you. Easy costume.
You talked about. I actually had a lot of fun taking my niece trick or treating. That's I started doing that. Because I in here where I live here, you see how kind of it's not the most common place to get to. Mm-hmm. We don't get any trick or treaters at all. It's creepy walking in all the way over here.
Which sounds perfect for Halloween trick or treating.
And we're decorated and all that. But I actually enjoy the hell out of taking the kid out to trick or treat, and I don't know if you remember this, the clown phase, the clown scare that happened. Like,
I remember that.
You remember
I'll
that?
never forget that.
So that year, my niece was scared. She would tell me how she was. Not just her. There was a lot of kids that were actually scared by that, because there was a incident, I think, in Concord, where someone dressed as a clown tried to kidnap a kid. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
And then they did a threat at her school, her elementary school, that someone dressed as a clown was going to do something there here in Pinole. So a lot of the kids were scared, and a lot of people canceled their trick-or-treating, said advise you to not dress as a clown. You remember that shit?
Yeah.
It was crazy. And that
Wasn't
year,
that the year that It Part 1 came out?
2016, I believe, or 2017.
Yeah, that was the year It Part 1 came out.
Yeah, it was.
And
it was prior to that.
That's what sparked that whole crazy clown craze.
Yeah, it was prior to that.
Yeah.
But I remember that year was going to take her, and she didn't feel comfortable going. But I was like, let's go. She didn't have a costume. My sister just did. My sister's a good makeup artist, so she did she painted her hair green and did this bun, and it made her look like a jack-o'-lantern. And we took her out, and but the thing with her, she wants me to dress up also when I go take her trick-or-treating.
Oh, you better.
So I actually
better,
dressed
Uncle.
up as Casey Jones, and I had a backpack full of bats.
Ooh.
And she felt comfortable then, because
because you about to swing on her, come right
I'm
up there.
strapped, homie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And it works because it's part of your costume. So it's not like the cops are going to be like, what are you doing?
Walking around with the weapon. Yeah.
No, it's totally Casey Jones.
I actually had a baseball bat and a golf club, like in the film. I'm like, I want to be film accurate. So, and then I have it's right here. I still have it to this day. But yeah, that's pretty much, man. What do you guys got planned today for Halloween? It's early in the day.
Well, I still got that Ghostbuster costume that I invested all that money into, so I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something with that Ghostbuster costume.
I got work until 7:30, and I will definitely be in my priest costume. Kids get a kick out of any teacher in costumes. Just you get to break out my Irish accent and be like, lighten your burdens, my son.
I have the perfect thing for that. Since it is Halloween and everybody listening in the Richmond Bay, East Bay area, tonight there is a party at Mallard's Club, Bar, Lounge. One of my buddies is going to be DJing, DJ Rich, or as some of us call him, DJ Dick.
Okay.
Rich Dick.
Right. That's no. We know Dick comes from Richard.
Right.
But yeah, he's a good DJ, and there's gonna. I mean, have you ever been to Mallard's Halloween party? It gets pretty fun.
Okay.
You wear a costume, $5 entrance. You don't wear a costume, it's $25. So how easy it is to put on a costume, it's very easy.
That's what I was gonna think. I just remembered one more Halloween story.
Ooh, go ahead.
So, there was one year where me, my friend Carlos, my friend Chad, and my friend Randy were going to like this like college Halloween party down in like San Jose. And it was the same kind of thing where it's like, oh, if you wear a costume, you get in for free. No costume, you got to pay.
Yeah.
So I wore like a Star Trek uniform, and then I had like another Star Trek hoodie, and I gave that to my buddy Chad. So we went as like Star Trek officers. What the fuck's so funny about Star Trek?
Oh, just a hoodie. It just seems like
yeah. So, and then my buddy Randy went as like Dante from Devil May Cry, because that's like his default costume.
Yeah.
My friend Randy, he's a big fan of the sauce, so he got pretty drunk in the car on the way to the party, and was pretty hammered by the time we got there. So we let him walk like 20 steps in front of us, just in case. And I remember we get there, and there's this like random Asian chick who like had a thing for me and Chad because we're dressed up as Star Trek people. And so she took like photos with us. I think I still have it on like my Facebook. And then later that day, she's talking to like me and my friend Chad and my friend Carlos, and she does some weird like handshake thing that I'm like totally not up on. And so I made some comment like, oh wow, you kids these days, I can't keep up. And then my friends Chad and Carl's like, what are you doing? And then they got all upset because they were thinking we had a chance to like talk her into taking the train home, if you catch my drift.
Jesus Christ.
And
that is a scary story.
And I was just like, that was never on the table. Well, it's certainly not now. What's you kids these days comment? And I was like, it was never on the table.
So those are the kind of friends you don't bring around women.
I mean, you know, I know I was talking earlier about like the want to go to the where was I when you guys finally went to a party on Halloween?
Bro, this was the lamest college party. It was actually at the college campus, and it was one of those ones that was like officially sanctioned by the college.
Oh yeah, that's
so there's like a security guard,
government approved rock and roll.
You know, there's like folding tables where they're selling fun-sized bags of chips for the same price as full-size bags of chips at the grocery store, where they just take cash and no card.
So it's just the ASU.
We go
the student union.
Yeah, we go there. There's like 6 people there, including my friend Randy, who's like the only one on the dance floor really going at it because he's fucking hammered as all hell. The security guard is telling us we need to get our friend out of here, and we're like, we don't know him.
You gotta
because he's just dancing too hard.
You gotta party with people who hate themselves. That's when you're gonna have fun. Well, I hope to see you. I'm gonna be at Mallard, so I hope to see you guys later on. If you want to ride with me, let me know. Not the people listening, but you guys are here. So that's why I'm gonna be Fat Sting, because anything I am is fat. So Fat Sting is what I'm going to be dressed up as. So you guys have a happy Halloween.
Indeed. Happy
you
Halloween
too.
From those of us at the Voice Party.
And head over to Frosted Mini Fears to check out Live Evil.
Oh, yes.
We're out.
YouTube.